Well, for more on this, we're joined by legal analyst advocate Romeo Nthambeleni. Advocate, a very good evening to you. Thank you so much for joining us, and a warm welcome to Prime News on 3.
Good evening to you and the viewers.
A very interesting twist today, and very interesting developments coming out of the Senzo Meyiwa murder trial. Remember that yesterday the defense team, fought tooth and nail, to stop state witness Tumelo Madlala from identifying any of the accused as being in the house on the evening that Senzo Meyiwa was shot and killed. It begs the question: why would they block him from identifying, possibly a lead in this particular murder trial? Should we read much into this? Could Madlala's testimony be the missing piece of the puzzle?
No, thank you for that question. I think there are interesting things that are coming out now in terms of the theory of the case. You could see that during cross-examination, there's a theory that the defense is actually having that they've presented to court, and they're going to bring evidence to actually support their theory. So it's very, very much important that now there are two conflicting versions that are supposed to be tested by court in evidence that is going to be brought before court. So indeed, it is interesting as to how things are actually developing, and the case is starting to take shape now.
But then, why would they block, the witness from pointing out who was in the house? Because public sentiment, again, I ask this question, is that the other people who were in the house, why haven't they been called in the first place?
Yeah, there are two important things that we must separate here. There's a court of public opinion,
yes,
and there is a court of law that is actually guided by evidence. We must not follow much and read much from the court of public opinion. Let us follow the proceedings at the trial, where real evidence is being led. And then if the real evidence can be able to prove as to who pulled the trigger that killed the deceased, that is what the state wants to actually prove. So in terms of identification, there are rules that govern identification, and there was a lot of debate relating to how identification parades are supposed to be done and how do you identify a witness. And finally, the person that was pointed out in court, it was entered into the record that that person was present in the house because the witness that was in the house said that that person was in the house. So that is very important.
And it's quite interesting that you mention an identity parade, which Madlala says he was not asked to form part of this identity parade. Instead, he was given an identity kit, which he confirmed had resulted from his description to the police.
Indeed, you are quite correct, because it's important. The identity parade is important in order to identify the perpetrators if they were indeed in the house. And that is why you found that was a very big point of argument when he identified that person in court to say that was the person that was wrestling with the deceased. And hence you saw a lot of objection, because that is not the theory of what the defense wants before court. And we had today their own theory in terms of the evidence that they're going to present. And that's why I'm saying it is important to follow the evidence that is before the court, not the evidence that is on social media platforms, because a court is the one that is going to make a determination as to what actually happened to the deceased on that fateful day. So real evidence is tested in court and is tested during cross-examination and what we see transpiring in court.
And remember that he had previously testified that this identity kit was for the first person he saw in the house, a short man with dreadlocks, yet he pointed out as Ntanzi, as tall with a trimmed beard. He was asked again if he recognized any of the accused before court. And I suppose it thrust into the spotlight the admissibility of Tumelo Madlala's evidence in court.
Absolutely. What you're saying is important, and the issue of admissibility of evidence is going to be argued at the end of the case, if ever there is admissibility to the evidence that was actually led by him. And you could hear that the counsel for the defense indicated that he was coached, and that is not the version. And he is going to actually argue that he is not a good witness, and the court should not even consider his evidence. And depending on the evidence that the defense will bring before the court, then the court is going to test that evidence and also make a determination of whether that admissibility is important. And also the issue of Netflix that was spoken about, that there were two conflicting versions of the very same witness that was on the witness stand. It's actually important to see that he said something different in the documentary and is saying something different before the court.
All right, Advocate Nthambeleni, great chatting to you. Thank you so much for your analysis.
Thanks.
Thank you. That was legal analyst Advocate Romeo Nthambeleni just sharing with us his thoughts and his analysis about the developments out of the Senzo Meyiwa murder trial.